Another week in the conference. This is the MSAHA Basketball Weekly Show. I am Trellis Williams, your host. Counselor's still rolling right now in boys, undefeated on the season. We'll talk about some of these games they've played and the teams that have been giving them some challenges. Laurel's girls looking pretty good right now. They did not play this last week. They are now in break. But as far as the conference is concerned, both ways, but especially in the boys, a lot of wildness going on back and forth throughout the league. We're going to talk about that. We're going to have Landon Hollingsworth, guard for the Laurel Nighthawks, who's having a big season for them this year. We will have him on the show to talk with us as well. Got a good show for you tonight. The MSAHA Basketball Weekly Show begins right now. Welcome back to the MSAHA Basketball Weekly Show. I am Trellis Williams, your host. I want to go ahead and remind you to hit that subscribe button to the TSJW Network YouTube channel. That's where we have all the coverage of the MSAHA and all that goes on through it. It's right here on the TSJW Network YouTube channel. Hit that subscribe button right now. We got a lot of stuff coming up this season. We're coming up on Christmas break now, so we don't have conference games coming up this upcoming week. So there's going to be a break, and we're going to take a break until we come back in probably the end of 2024, maybe the last week when we come back to the show. We're going to take a week off. Obviously, next week will be Christmas Day, but we have appreciated you keeping up with the MSAHA basketball right here on the TSJW Network. I also want to remind you to check out the website, tsjwnetwork.net. That's where all the scores, standings, and schedules for the league reside. It is on the TSJW Network website, tsjwnetwork.net. So this past week, we've had some games. Starting on Thursday, December 12th is where we're going to be starting. Had the Muddy River Counselors and the Jackson Victors. Now, that is always an interesting matchup because those two teams share the same area of coverage for homeschool athletics. Boys basketball is the only thing that the Counselors and the Victors compete in. Victors cover a lot of different sports. Counselors cover basketball and soccer. Victors don't do soccer, and Victors don't have girls basketball. And so boys basketball is the only time that they compete, and this is where they were competing the first time on the season. And so in 18U boys, varsity boys, the Muddy River Counselors get the win to keep their winning streak rolling, 64-43 over the Jackson Victors there on the road in Byram, taking on the Victors, winning 64-43. Now, definitely an interesting game. Some cold shooting to go around. Counselors finishing with 64, but the Counselors keeping it rolling with a 64-43 win. Then also on Thursday night, we had PCA and Hattisburg matched up in Hattisburg. Now, the first time these two teams played, talking about boys right now, first time that the two teams played, Hattisburg led for the majority of the ball game in Lacombe on the road, and PCA able to come back and get the win, 55-50 last time, but it's a very close game. A surprise to many along the conference. Hattisburg only has one conference win. They're at the bottom of the conference right now, but that's not really based on the level of play they've been playing at. It's more so just kind of losing a lot of close games the Forerunners have. But anyway, they match up again on Thursday night. In girls, PCA wins 48-22, just handling business. PCA tied for that number one seed. They have the head-to-head over Laurel right now with that 1-point win earlier in the season. PCA wins 48-22 over Hattisburg, easily on the road. Then in boys, PCA getting the win again, but again by 5 points, 57-52. So obviously Hattisburg has something figured out there. Were they able to keep this game close? PCA able to hold them off once again, though. So a win is a win, and the Paladins get another win right there. Then on Saturday, the Paladins back at it again, now on the road once again, taking on the Counselors this time. The first time these two teams played, talking about girls first, PCA able to win 54-41, a 13-point win over the Counselors girls there at home, PCA in Lacombe. This time the two teams played, and it was a really close one. Came down to the final minute, PCA winning by 1 point, 38-37. And so that kind of ended the Counselors' hopes of being able to maybe crack into those top 3 seeds and being able to compete in there. They lose that one, so that keeps them below there with the 1 point loss to PCA. Now, the first time they closed the gap from the last time, so Counselors were happy with that. But PCA able to hold on and get another win, and they stay atop the conference with only one conference loss, that one being to Meridian last week, which we talked about last week. Very close game there as well. So we got a lot of interesting stuff going on in the girls' conference because Laurel is doing very well. They've played very well the last couple of weeks. They've been on a winning streak, and they looked like a team that would be very tough to beat. They beat the Counselors by over 50 points, which was a big-time win there. But then the Counselors able to bounce back and compete with PCA in a close manner, only losing by 1 point there to PCA. So Counselors still in the mix there. Then in boys, last time these two teams played, the Counselors won by 9 at PCA, 62-53. This time, the Counselors get another win, 75-64. The Counselors played well. They led the entire ball game, and they're able to get the win by 11 points over PCA. And PCA is that team, that number 2 team in the conference. This was the championship game from last year. The Counselors always concerned with PCA. That was the team that they had to get over the hump of 2 years ago. It's been the championship game for the last 2 years. 2 years ago, the Counselors lost to PCA. Last year, the Counselors were able to beat PCA, but narrowly in that championship ball game. Now they complete the season sweep of the Paladins with a 75-64 victory. Also on Saturday, Tupelo taking on Laurel. Now the Nighthawks taking care of business, and they win by a large margin. 36-point win, 74-38 at home for the Laurel Nighthawks. And our guest today, Landon Hollingsworth, had a big game there. And we're going to talk to him about that. Then on Monday, last night rather, Tuesday, December 17th, the Jackson Victors taking on the Macomb Gators. Now, last time these two teams played, Macomb got the win. And this is where this conference is getting crazy because the Victors have been holding on to that 3 seed for a little while, been playing some good basketball this year. The Victors were at near the bottom of the conference last year, 5th out of 6 teams. This year, they've taken a big step up, have had a good season. They play Macomb again, this time on the road. They lost at home the first time. Second time, they lose again, 51-42. So the Gators starting to be on the come up here. They lost to Meridian just a week ago, beat Tupelo, and now they beat the Victors. And that just goes to show you what's going on in this league. It's all over the place. People beating each other all up and down the league. Also, last night, the Hattisburg Forerunners and the Muddy River Counselors. So in girls, the Counselors had won the first time with relative ease down in Hattisburg. This time, the Forerunners win by 33 points. Multiple injuries in the ball game for the Counselors, and you hope that they come back healthy. But then the Forerunners went on a big fourth quarter, winning the fourth quarter 25-0 and winning the ball game. 55-22 on the road against the Muddy River Counselors. So the Forerunners now above the Counselors in the standings. Counselors dropped to the 5 seed in the 18U Girls Conference. Then in boys, Forerunners coming off some close battles with PCA where they kept them close. First time these two teams played between the Forerunners and the Counselors. Counselors won 68-41, so a 27-point win. This time, similar type margin. The Counselors win by 28. 81-53, but the Counselors opened up a 38-point lead at one point in the game. Counselors are rolling right now. They're looking good. They're 12-0 in conference, 15-0 overall. A big year for the Counselors that they've had thus far. And after, we're going to have an interview here with Landon Hollingsworth, guard for the Laurel Nighthawks. But after that, we will talk about the standings and kind of where everybody stands going into the second half of the season. But right now, I want to go ahead and bring Landon Hollingsworth on, and we are very glad to be joined by him. Landon, thank you for joining us on the MSAHA Basketball Weekly Show.
Thanks for having me, Trellis. I really appreciate it, man.
Man, awesome. I appreciate you joining. So my first question, man, is that, so, you know, for everybody who is not aware, you started off on the Mount Zion Lions here in this conference.
Yes,
and, you know, end up moving on to Laurel last year. That's your second year with the Laurel Nighthawks. Just kind of talk about that transition, because you're on a team where you guys are a tight-knit bunch, and you guys had made big strides there in the 16U division, I know, a couple years ago. So just talk about that transition from Mount Zion to Laurel there.
I'm gonna be honest, man. It was a great one. I live not too far from Coach Jack and Ben, so just a pretty seamless transition. I came in and I told them, I was honest with them, had a lot of talks. I was telling them, I said, I'll fill whatever role is needed. I'll come off the bench. I'll do whatever. And that's just, I think having that mindset's helped out a lot. And it's just a great group of guys. So it was very easy to just roll on and build, because it was a complete rebuild. I mean, they had lost four. They lost all 5 starters.
That's right, they did.
So, I mean, it was a blessing, man. Great opportunity.
Yeah, for sure, and definitely have taken advantage of it, because I mean, you guys shifted. You guys shifted style of play too. It's a different style of play now than what Laurel used to be, and you guys have really been able to figure it out. And so another thing too is I want to kind of extend on that question. Just kind of playing with your teammates. I mean, you hold down that backcourt with Ethan Beach. You got a good big man in Brock Anderson down low who can really get buckets down low. Talk about the chemistry that you guys have built.
Well, I think we've all understood. Like, I had a conversation with Ethan before that Tupelo game. There's not a doubt in my mind that Ethan can't go and have double digits of whatever stat line he feels like it on the night, you know. And I know we've seen from last season, like, Brock had an insane year, and he's still having a great year this year. So I think now we've kind of bought into, it doesn't have to be my night. What can I do to make the game easier for my teammates, right? Because we've got people that everybody on our, 6, 7, 8-man rotation can get buckets. So it's just trusting the process, the offense, and playing for each other.
Definitely, man. So now I want to talk about that Tupelo game. So on Saturday is the last game before Christmas break for you guys. And I mean, you guys have really played a packed out schedule, already 21 games into the season. And that's awesome, man. There's nothing like playing a bunch of basketball. You guys get the 74-38 win, but big game for you, man. Putting in 33 points, man. And you've really figured out how to score this basketball here. Just kind of talk about a game like that, and, you know, just kind of how you enjoy that.
I mean, it's a great way to end off heading into a break, that's for sure. A good bounce back win after our tough game with the Counselors. And that's one of them games, like Ethan, you know, he had 9 assists. Everybody was getting in, getting boards, playing good defense, and it was a good team basketball game. I mean, and I enjoyed it. Jack gave me the green light.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and so also another thing I want to ask you about, this league, we were kind of talking about it a little bit before the show, and I was just talking about it now on the show, that it's just been back and forth all up and down the conference. You guys are 5-5 in conference, so you guys have seen every side of it. And you guys were even leading against a team like PCA. PCA has only lost to the Counselors. They've been able to muster up these wins in these close games against you guys and against Hattisburg twice. But, you know, Hattisburg only 1 win in conference, but they've been playing better than than their record would reflect. I mean, and so you guys were the ones that they beat, but you guys are not, you know, you guys are up there in this league. And so just kind of talk about that. Just talk about how much fun it is to always look forward to every single game, knowing that you can either win or lose every single game.
Yeah, I mean, you got to stay on your toes. You got to prepare. There's no easy games in this conference, to be honest, and because everybody's talented. I mean, not only like physically gifted, with McComb, they've got their height, but you've got at least two people on each team who could shoot the lights out of the ball. So that's something you have to respect every night. And then we just got, it's a great year for just skill in this conference.
It is, man. And speaking of skill, just wanted to ask you about this because definitely have respected your work on your game, man. You see it year after year. You've been able to be very creative with the ways that you score the basketball. Because obviously, man, you're a smaller guy, out there. And you got some teammates that have some height to them. But man, you're able to use what you got to be able to get buckets, man. So just talk about that work that you put in to be able to do that.
Yes, it's consistency over intensity. Just being consistent day in and day out.
Yeah.
Got a great trainer, Jackson Delk, tap in with him. But, that's all it is just being consistent.
Yeah, for sure, man. Appreciate you joining us on the MSAHA Basketball Weekly Show, and good luck to you this year. Looking forward to seeing a lot more of action from you guys this year. But we appreciate you joining the show.
Thank you, Trellis. I appreciate you.
Absolutely. So, folks, that was Landon Hollingsworth. We really appreciate him joining the show, and he's had a big year for those Laurel Nighthawks, and you got to watch out for them. Just the other day they were taking on the Counselors, took a lead there at the beginning. The Counselors were able to come back, win the ball game, but Laurel, they look like a tough team, and they've got a lot of basketball to be played. And they're actually, I should have asked Landon about this because they're going to be playing PCA right off the bat in 2025, and so that should be very interesting to see as well. But just want to go through the standings a little bit and talk about what we're seeing right now. So in the 18U boys division, so number one are the Muddy River Counselors at a 12-0 conference record, followed up at number two with PCA at a 7-2 conference record. Their two losses are both to the Muddy River Counselors. So PCA solid in that number two spot, but they definitely wanting to hold on to it here. The Macomb Gators at number three now after getting a few wins in a row. They're 6-4 in conference now after defeating the Jackson Victors for the second time this season. The Victors sitting at number four with the 5-4 conference record. And then they are followed by Laurel, who's 5-5 with an even 5-5 conference record. Tupelo right there at number six with a 3-7 record. Meridian at number 7, 3-9. Royal Hurricanes are 1-4. They have not played that many conference games, so they are there at number 8. And then finally, Hattisburg Forerunners 1-8 in conference, which is just one of those things. And when you look at it, the Forerunners. And they had a tough time with the Counselors last night, but the Forerunners are a good basketball team that can shoot the ball. Don't have as much depth as they're used to having, but they are definitely a very competitive team. And you can ask Laurel. Laurel's a good team, and Hattisburg was able to knock them off, and that's their only win. So that is a very interesting thing to see when you look at this conference. But the Counselors 1 win away from clinching the number 1 seed, which is always nice to get, but obviously you don't get home court advantage. So, it's always nice to get, but you got to win there in tournament time. Looking at 18 and under girls, so PCA's number 1, 7-1 conference record, their one loss being to Meridian. They beat Laurel in the head-to-head, so Laurel also with one conference loss. Theirs to PCA. They're 5-1 in conference, but 13-3 overall. The Laurel Lady Nighthawks have really been on a tear. Started off okay. Last year, they lost a lot of their top players from last year. Even had a coaching change with Coach Cliff Jenkins taking over from Coach Sean Spradley. And so, they had some adjustments to make, but it seems like they've caught their stride. They're looking pretty good right now. And so Laurel and PCA will match up there on January 3rd. And I think we're going to be able to have a show before then, and we'll talk about that. But yes, 5-1 conference record for Laurel. They sit at number 2. Number 3 is Meridian with a 5-2 conference record. Their 2 losses being to the teams above them, PCA and Laurel, but now they have a win over PCA, so that's big for Meridian. Laurel is a different team than Meridian and PCA. Meridian and PCA more slow down teams, have a good, big girl inside. Good defense. Both those teams do, PCA and Meridian. Laurel has good defense as well, but Laurel very more of a guard heavy team. Fast, quick, move the ball quickly, good ball handling. That's Laurel. But that proves to be tough. And if their pressure is able to work against the other team, it works very well for them. Coming in now at the number 4 seed is Hattisburg with a 3-5 conference record. They has split their matchup with the Muddy River Counselors. They just took over that 4 spot from the Counselors, but now their head-to-head goes heavily into Hattisburg's direction because the Counselors won by 10. They went up by 18 at one point in that game the first time they played each other, but then they end up winning by 10. Hattisburg ended up winning by 33. So Hattisburg has that head-to-head over the Counselors, and you don't see the Counselors doing anything about that. They upcoming, as far as girls concerned, they have Macomb and Meridian before they end the season. So the best they can be is 4-6. And so they're, we'll see how that shakes out. Muddy River Counselors with a 2-6 conference record, 5-6 overall. Macomb coming in last at 0-7, have not won a single conference game. And some other notable things to talk about. We don't usually talk about anything under 18U, but some notable things to talk about. Jackson Victors able to break some big winning streaks from the Counselors at younger ages. In 14U, there was a matchup between the Counselors and the Victors. Victors sat at 7-0. Counselors were 7-0 as well. Victors ended up winning by a lot of points, about 35 points or whatever. Victors win by a lot there in 14U. Shocker there. Counselors had not lost a 14U game since February 20th of 2021. Okay, so that's a long time ago. And so the Victors broke that streak. They also broke the 16U streak from the Counselors that same night. 43-39 is very much closer of a ball game. And the Counselors just kind of fumbled that one there at the end. Victors took it over and won the game by 4. Broke a streak that the Counselors had won every one since February of 2022. So you got to say those are some notable things. Victor's able to win those younger games. Counselors won the 18U game, and they remain undefeated in overall and in conference with a 15-0 overall record, 12-0 conference record. So before we leave, I do want to remind you that we have some things coming up here on the TSJW Network YouTube channel. We're doing the pregame show, which is our high school sports show. It covers high school sports throughout Mississippi. So this talks about homeschool, public school, and private school. So we talk about it all. We bring on various guests. So please join us there. We put that out, premiere it here on the TSJW Network YouTube channel on Thursdays at 8 p.m. So please be sure to check that out. Also, tomorrow night, the Muddy River Counselors take on the Central Hines Academy Cougars. This will be a big test for the Counselors as they're 15-0. Cougars are a good team. Got some good players on their team as well. So that matchup will be tomorrow night on Counselors TV. And so, folks, we really appreciate you joining us. We're going to take a week off next week on the MSAHA Basketball Weekly Show, and Laurel willing return on New Year's Day, January 1st, as we're back in 2025 to come up to the last month and a half of this season, folks. We appreciate you joining us. We appreciate Son Michael Williams. He was with us behind the camera for production here today. Trellis Williams, this is the MSAHA Basketball Weekly Show. We out.